you feeling stuck, lost, tired, or uninspired? We've all been there, including myself. I'm Coach Des, mindset motivator and lifestyle entrepreneur. I'm here to tell you that the best, unapologetic, and limitless version of yourself is yet to come. The Born Unbreakable podcast is here to inspire just that. With motivating guests from all different walks of life and around the world, their stories will empower you to unlock abundance and your unbreakable spirit. Do you need accountability? Reach out to me for a free consultation of how I can support you in reaching your maximum potential. This episode is brought to you by Korma Date Coffee, the healthy alternative to coffee. This delicious date coffee has the health benefits of giving you natural energy, antioxidants, vitamins, minerals, and fiber. Best of all, Korma is caffeine-free, no jitters, no anxiety, and no afternoon crash. Go to kormacafe.com, that's KORMACAFE.com, and enter discount code BORNUNBREAKABLE at checkout to get 10% off your order. Welcome to the Born Unbreakable podcast. I have been anticipating this interview. Alan Lazaros is on the show today. We've had to move this a couple of times, scheduling and everything, but this is a real treat because Alan has an incredible amount of experience in a number of ways. So I'll say a couple things about him. He's a host of his own podcast, Next Level University. He's also the CEO of Next Level University, which we'll talk about. He's a peak performance business coach, and his podcast is actually over 850 episodes in over 120 countries across the globe. And it is one of the top 100 when you're thinking about self-development. So you absolutely want to go and check him out because you will learn. It's like going to school. You'll learn a ton from him and the guests that he has on his show. I'm excited about Alan's story. I won't steal his thunder, but there have been some trials and tribulations that he's gone through that had some pivot points. I'd call them pivot points or maybe awakenings that has led him further into this business and self-development space. So we'll talk about that today. And we'll just have a really authentic conversation about, what it takes to have longevity in terms of being an entrepreneur, being motivated, staying excited, because it's not easy. I'll go so far as saying that it's not easy, but when your heart is in the right place and you have focus, you can persevere. So Alan, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm extremely excited about this one in particular, and I'm just going to say up front. So before I do anything, I always like to set an intention. And my intention is going to be to pull back the curtain for everyone about I've had a lot of success, and I am very, very grateful for that. And this is really just the beginning in many ways because I'm only 33 years old. But I want to pull back the curtain on what it has really taken, and I'm going to ask all of the listeners and viewers to allow me to be more direct. My intention is to be very direct in my communication. I actually have it written on my whiteboard in the corner. That's my theme in the chapter I'm in my life. Is I'm not someone who's going to sugarcoat anything. I'm very heart driven, and hopefully that will be clear, but I'm also very direct and no BS. No BS. I'm going to talk about what it really has taken and what success really does require, but more importantly than success is fulfillment. So thank you so much for having me. And I love Born Unbreakable, the theme and the thesis. And so this is exciting.
Yeah. And I want to comment on a word that you said that I think will be thematic in our conversation and I think is vitally important. And it's the word fulfillment, because there is a difference between success, because we can have successful moments. We can achieve a milestone and acquire that amount of money or grow our business. But those are moments, and fulfillment is something that is sustaining when you have a life and a mission and a vision that you can live up to on a daily basis. So there is a distinction. I just want to call that out. But I would love, Alan, if you could, I use the word pivots, and I know that when you were 2, your father passed away. I know that you had an accident at 26 that was life-changing. Could you talk about those pivotal moments in your life and what kind of awakening you had?
Yeah, so the first thing to say up front is that I'm 33 years old now, and so when I tell this story, I need to make it clear up front that I didn't always have this same level of clarity. One of my heroes, Steve Jobs, said, "You cannot connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. But you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future because that will give you the courage you need to follow your heart when it leads you off the well worn path." And so I'm 33 now, so I will tell my story. I'm happy to do that. But I want everyone to understand that the clarity that I have on my past is through tons of repetition and tons of recontemplating it. And I am more clear on it now than I was at 32. And I'm going to be more clear on it when I'm 34 than I am now at 33 because I consistently contemplate it and re-understand it at a deeper level. And I connect many, many dots. I've connected one recently that I was like, blew my mind. So I'll start out with where my life started, which was I was 2 years old. I had an older sister who was 3 years older than me. So she was 6. I was almost 3. And I had a mom and a dad, and my dad passed away in a car accident, as you mentioned. So I was raised by 2 women. I had an older sister who took good care of me and a mother. And I did have a stepfather from age 3 to 14. And my stepdad left when we were 14. And that's kind of a whole nother story. But one of the pivotal pieces in my life that, again, in hindsight, this is clear to me. At the time, I did not know that this was what was driving me. I was 7 years old, and my mom sat me down, and she had this very awesome way of explaining things to me, which she always focused on explaining things to me. And now I realize, how important that is in hindsight. She said, "Alan, you can be a CEO or you can be a farmer. I'm going to love you either way. But if you aim high and you're a CEO, you can wake up one day and suddenly decide to be a farmer. It does not work the other way around." And so she said, "Aim high and you'll have choices." And I've had some really dark moments in my life. I've had some really hard times, health challenges, family challenges in particular, my own challenges with alcohol and things like that. But I always aimed high, always. And I always strived to achieve as much as I could. And I always had choices. And most importantly, I always had a bright future. And so that's really going to be thematic in this episode as well. So fast forward, I am 10 years old or so, 10 or 11, and we're driving in my mom's older black BMW, and we're driving in Worcester, Massachusetts, and in the US. And we drive past my alma mater. It was called Worcester Polytechnic Institute. It's kind of like a mini MIT it's an engineering school primarily. And my uncle Merle at the time was the track and field coach there. As a matter of fact, he's since passed away, and they actually named the track and field Norcross Field, Merle Norcross. But I'm 10 at the time, and my mom said, "Alan, you're really smart. You're really good at math. People who are really good at math go there. You could be an engineer. Engineers make a lot of money. You should go to WPI." And so she planted that dream in my heart. And I, from that moment on, had that dream to go to WPI one day and, be an engineer and have choices. Again, have choices. Because, by the way, my mom didn't feel like she had many choices with 2 children, and she was a stay-at-home mom when my father passed away. And so she wished she had taken her academics more seriously. And so now here I am. If you're watching the video, I've got all these awards behind me. And so I took academics very seriously. So fast forward, she said, "Alan, I'm going to take a chance on you." I was about to go into high school, and it was in 7th grade. And she said, it's 7th grade summer. She said, "Alan, I'm going to take a chance on you." She said, "I'm going to let you take 8th grade off," which was the tail end of middle school before high school. You still have to go to school. Obviously, legally, I still had to go to school as a kid, but you don't have to try. Up to this point, I was all A's, maybe a couple B's, really good student, and good student, right? And she said, you don't have to try. Just go have fun. Just go have fun. But you have to promise me that you'll get the President's Award in high school. So the President's Award in high school at the time, and I have it behind me. It's signed by George Bush. But she said the President's Award is you have to get a 95 or above GPA for every report card all of high school. So straight A's, basically. So all of high school, I worked, and I got 1 B plus. It was an 89 in honors English for all of high school, 1 B plus. And so I was a straight A student, eighth in my class. And I was the obnoxious guy at the award ceremony that never sat down, just kept calling my name, right? And that's all well and good, but I got my dream. I achieved my dream of going to WPI, and I got financial aid and scholarships, fortunately, because at the time when my stepdad left, we were very, very, we didn't have a lot of income at all. So I go to WPI. I'm an electrical and computer engineer. I get my degree. I graduate with high distinction, and I eventually go into the corporate world. So I worked for a bunch of companies. I worked for iRobot, in the marketing team and product management team there. I worked for a company called Oz Development, software company. I worked for a company called Sensata Technologies, which used to be Texas Instruments. I worked for a company called Tyco Safety Products, all these different companies. So I'm an engineer at the time, and I realized that I love people and I'm a good communicator. And again, my hero is Steve Jobs. And at the time, my main goal, my main achievement, again, aim high, you'll have choices. There's a reason Steve Jobs was my hero. I remember being in macroeconomics class and seeing the YouTube video of the 2005 Stanford address. This was in like 2010, I think. And I literally got up and I left the class and I was like, okay, I'm done with this class now. And I went and started a little company called Campus Libre, my first tech company I ever started. And me and the CEO of that company ended up having a falling out, even though we were successful right out of the gate. At this point, I'm really questioning my life. I'm like, okay, I want to be a Fortune 50 CEO of a tech company like my hero, Steve Jobs. And here I am. That Campus Libre thing didn't work out, which was super painful. And I'm behind a desk now. I'm an engineer. I'm designing circuits. I'm going to go get my MBA. So I get my master's in business, and then I go into corporate again. And I lived in LA for a short time, for like a 3-month period. I worked at a bunch of different companies. I eventually landed at a company called Cognex. Cognex, I started an inside sales team there, sales engineers, and then I get promoted to outside sales. Eventually, I manage a territory. So at this point, I'm in my early 20s, and I'm making almost $200,000 per year. I paid off $84,000 worth of debt in 1 year back in 2014, and I just made an investment portfolio, and I was off to the races. Again, still shooting for my main dream of being a Fortune 50 CEO. So that was always the true north for me. And I'm up in New Hampshire with my little cousin. We were playing Call of Duty. We weren't partying or anything. And my little cousin's 17 at the time. I'm 26 at the time. And I remember driving to TGI Fridays, and I've got the GPS, and this is a cold winter night back in 2015. And in 2015, it was one of those horrible winters where the snowbanks in New Hampshire were actually above the signs. And there was a yield sign that the snowbank was covering. I was supposed to yield. I didn't. I ended up on the wrong side of the road, and I was looking down at the GPS. I looked up, and I saw what I thought was a Mack truck. Now, in a moment where I'm 10 feet from what I think is a Mack truck, and I'm in this little car, I'm like, there's no possibility that I'm going to survive this. And so for anyone who's had a life or death situation, it's like inexplicable if you've never experienced it, but it was that moment of there's no version. This is it. There's no chance I make it. Fortunately, okay, it was not a Mack truck. It was a lift kitted pickup truck, like a really high lift kit. In New Hampshire, there's a lot of pickup trucks with lift kits. And I was driving a 2004 Volkswagen Passat, which I used to call the tank. I bought it in $5,000 cash, and it's a German engineered steel trap. I used to call it the tank. And so fortunately, both airbags deployed. My cousin and I were okay physically. He hurt his knee on the airbag. I hurt my face. But I'm telling you, so my father passed away in a car accident when he was 28. I'm 26 at the time, and I've seen the pictures of my dad's car, and I've seen the pictures of mine, and I usually in my speeches will show the picture. This is not a fender bender. I mean, my car is beyond totaled, and they don't look very different. And so I grew up my whole life hearing stories about John. And so the fact that I almost just died in a car accident, just like my father, rattled me beyond what I could possibly explain in a podcast. Mm-hmm. And so physically, we were okay. And my little cousin was fine. He was like tweeting about it, whatever, invincibility, teenage years. And I'm emotionally, mentally, and spiritually rattled. I mean, even though I'm physically okay, I was just completely inexplicably just rattled. I'm sitting in an armchair at my cousin's house, drinking whiskey, contemplating my entire life. I am so shaken. And now I refer to as sometimes life is going to shake your snow globe. And sometimes it takes time for the snow to like land, the truth to land. And so for me, it shook me so much. I had regret. I was questioning who I was as a man. Did I love enough? Did I live enough? Did I make good choices? Did I accomplish what I wanted to accomplish, right? And so I had my midlife crisis at 26. And I'm very, very grateful for that now, obviously. Fortunately, with no debilitating long-term consequences. Although I will say this, we talk a lot about PTSD, and that was very real. Double yellow lines scared me for a long time. I kept getting pulled over because I was on the wrong side of the road. I got claustrophobic and couldn't walk through doors for a short time. But there's also something called post-traumatic growth. And that is where this story goes. You cannot see the stars during the day. They are always there, but sometimes it takes the darkness to see clearly that which you simply couldn't within the light. That is, I wear this true north around my neck. For anyone on video, you can see it's a North Star. It's a guide. And I saw two stars that I had never seen before when I was in the dark of contemplation and regret. One is Tony Robbins' TED Talk. So regardless of what you think of Tony, his TED Talk is unbelievable. Best TED Talk ever done, in my opinion. Definitely watch it if you haven't. Two, and more importantly, there's a woman by the name of Bronnie Ware from Australia who wrote a book called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. Now, what a quote-unquote coincidence. I almost just died, and I'm in regret, and I notice a star I'd never seen before because I'm in the dark, so I can see the star now. The book was always there. It was always famous, right? Not always, but at least for the last decade. And I noticed the top 5 regrets of the dying. I pick up the book. The number one regret of the dying, to this day, I have a flashcard in my pocket right now with all 5 regrets. The number one regret of the dying is I wish I had lived a life true to myself and not what others expected of me. And so for me, I always aimed high. I always wanted to achieve. I always wanted choices. I always wanted to be successful. And I was successful, quote unquote. Beautiful girlfriend, more money than I need by far. One of my checks was 12 grand biweekly. And I achieved the 6 figures right out of college and all that stuff. Graduate with distinction, top tier institution, MBA, all that. And that is all valid and that's all great. And I don't want to pretend that it's not. But what I was not doing was living a life true to myself, and I wasn't living in what I now refer to as my calling, and I was not optimizing for fulfillment. So I've actually gotten a chance to interview Bronnie Ware on the podcast, which is so cool because this was like 4 years later, and I was total fanboy on that episode. But that's really the message is who better to learn from than people that were terminally ill that Bronnie was taking care of, and she noticed the same regrets over and over and over again. And the number one regret of the dying, of the terminally ill, is I wish I had lived a life true to myself and not what others expected of me. And so that after that, I mean, I just decided, I was like, sometimes it takes getting to hell no to go all the way in on hell yes. And after that, I was just so unreasonably obsessed with what I now refer to as the maximization triad. 3 things, super simple. Number 1, maximizing my own unique potential. That is by far number 1, most important to me, always has been, even when I didn't know it. Number 2, maximizing my own unique greatest level of contribution. So maximizing my potential, number 1. Number 2, using that to contribute. Number 3, wasn't always good at this one. Maximizing my own unique quality of life. And so mastery, impact, and profitability. Master your craft, impact people with it, become profitable, increase the quality of your life so that you can keep that cycle going. And now I'm writing a book called Optimizing for Fulfillment. And fulfillment is a byproduct of the soul's recognition of alignment with its true calling, with its highest self, with its greatest level of mastery, impact, and profitability, with its greatest level of potential. And so now that's what I do is I am focused on one main thing, which is maximizing my potential, helping others do the same in a profitable way. And I went all in on that after 26, and here I am at 33. And I really appreciate the intro. I appreciate the 120 countries and the top 100 podcast and a podcast every day and 800 episodes. And we're about to surpass 500,000 in revenue as a podcast. That's really good. It's awesome. It's all awesome. But it's the least relevant part. The most relevant part is what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis and what I started doing after 26 and even before that in terms of work ethic and achievement. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
It blows me away. It does. It really does. There's so much that you said in there. I know as people are listening that their jaw dropped or their head shaking and they're thinking about what that moment was like for you when you reconsidered everything. And maybe for some people it wasn't something as scary as a car accident, but there's those moments of darkness before you see the light. And the fact that you reference Bronnie Ware is incredible, because I talk about that book but probably in several different episodes, and encourage people to read it, because as I mentioned to you, my message is for people to be unapologetically who they are, and it is a challenge when you think about our upbringing. Like you mentioned, a great mom and aiming high, that came from her. That's amazing. We have wonderful influences in our life, from our parents to our friends and family to our teachers, our mentors. And some people are fortunate enough to have a lot of these great mentors, but there are moments when you are living your life and questioning if you're living it on your terms or you're living it on the terms of other people. And that's a reconciliation process, I think, that people go through at different points, and maybe even more than once, arguably, as the longer that you're on the earth here. But I want to, go back to what you said when you said, you have this relentless pursuit of, you had this shift and you went all in, and we hear about the accomplishments and the accolades, but what was the start of Next Level University? Like, where was that epiphany, and how did it all come into fruition?
So, and I appreciate it. And I think that the authenticity thing, I just want to say one quick thing on that. When you said that being unapologetically you is a challenge, I would say it's the challenge. It's the greatest challenge. A lot of people talk about, oh, I don't care what people think. And I mean, so few people actually don't. And I'll just say this quick before I move forward. I have so many clients from all over the world. I have 20 in between group coaching and one-on-one coaching, and then relationship talks coaching with Emilia, plus the 14-person team that I coach. I'm leading like 55 or so people right now. And the reason I say that is not to talk about me, but to say that if I just surpassed my 1,000th coaching call like a month ago, you just have such an insight into so many lives from so many backgrounds, from so many countries, from so many cultures, from so many ethnicities, that you realize that there's so many commonalities, and one of them is a just a sheer fear of judgment. There's a reason why people post certain things on Snapchat or Instagram, but they would never post it on Facebook. And it's your judgmental relatives. I know you've told yourself a story that it's not that, but it is the fact that your family's on there. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
if we were live on Facebook right now, even me with all these episodes and all this public life would still have trouble because mommy might be watching, right? So it's just in our nature. And so I don't think it's a challenge to be yourself. I think it is the challenge. And I just wanted to say that first. To transition to your other question, how did Next Level University actually start? I'll take you, when I was in Cognex, I used to sell industrial automation equipment into manufacturing facilities. So Vermont, Connecticut, and Western Mass was my territory. And I would go into these manufacturing facilities and I would see these old pictures on the wall of all these workers and the way the factories used to run. And now it's all robots and automation and one floor manager. And that was the person I was talking to typically. And I would sell these cameras that have software that would do quality assurance. So if this water bottle was going down a line at 100 per minute or whatever, it would take photos and test and make sure everything was properly manufactured. And the better I did, which I was doing very well, the less jobs there were for people that were used to do the actual quality assurance. Like they're used to have people actually inspecting these items. And so automation is coming, technology is coming. There's nothing any of us can do about that. And it's actually a good thing. But what I will say is that I noticed this huge problem. And I told you up front that I was going to be direct. So I'm just gonna work on that. The truth of the matter is that statistically speaking, the less educated part of the population has children earlier and more children. Statistically speaking, this is just data. Versus some of the more educated population tends to have less children and have them much later. And so the exponential growth of the less educated population is increasing more exponentially than the educated part of the population, globally speaking, statistically speaking. And so I saw this huge problem because when you go into a Panera, so if you've never been into a Panera, think of your grocery store. I mean, COVID has only accelerated this, right? I'm a technologist. I'm electrical and computer engineering, so I see all this happening. Eventually every grocery store will have no workers in it. It will just be the self-checkout with cameras and automation is coming, and it's coming fast. The moment there's a self-driving car that is safe enough for the market, the trucking industry is going to shift. I have a mentor who just sold robotics into some companies I can't mention that used to be 3,000 people doing this work. Those 3,000 people that need the jobs, those jobs, so this is the trend. What happens if the people who need the jobs most are increasing in population exponentially, but the jobs are decreasing exponentially? So I foresaw this huge issue in the world. Mm-hmm. And I was actually a part of the problem because I was selling industrial automation equipment. And so while I believe in technology and love that, it was hard for me to witness these people who need these jobs get their jobs taken because I'm selling equipment that does it better, faster, doesn't get sick, that whole deal. And so here's my point. You go into a Panera and you type on a kiosk and you don't talk to anyone. And then I've been to one where the food just shows up and then you ring the little buzzer and you go get your food. And so the amount of workers required to run a business is exponentially decreasing. Instagram was sold for $1 billion with 12 employees to Facebook. Think about 40 years ago. 40 years ago, $1 billion company would have at least 5,000 employees, if not more. And so how can 12 employees create $1 billion worth of value? The digital world is the reason. And so I saw this huge issue of the uneducated population desperately needs help. And so here's what I did. I went on a mission. I created a company called Alan Lazaros LLC. And my slogan was what you'll never learn in school, but desperately need to know. WPI, one of the top technical institutions in the world, all my friends from WPI, all becoming multimillionaires. All my friends from home, from high school that didn't go into tech, living paycheck to paycheck, right? Or not doing that well, I should say. That scared me, right? I'm an electrical engineer. I get offered jobs every day, every month, every week on LinkedIn. I'm getting messages still, right? And the answer is no. But anyways, so the point is that the world has transformed. It's changed. And we didn't learn in school what we actually need to know. And it bothered me. So that's where a podcast was born. I wanted to educate people on what it is going to require if they want to have choices in their future. And so I created a podcast called Conversations Change Lives. I tried to figure out, okay, what made the difference in my life? It was like great conversations with really intelligent people. Even in college, I used to like debate with all the smartest minds I could find. And in hindsight, that's paid off so much. It's wild. But then I ended up having Kevin on my show because he loved to have deep conversations too. Kevin's my current co-host. And he had a podcast called the Hyper Conscious Podcast. And he had me on his show. And he grew up without a father as well. And we connected so deeply. And eventually we started to link up every week. And we were doing the Hyper Conscious Podcast meets Conversations Change Lives podcast, which is a terrible name. And so we eventually go all in on the Hyper Conscious Podcast. And then 450 episodes in, we went all in on that. And eventually we rebranded to Next Level University. And so now we are Next Level University. You brush your teeth every day, you can improve every day. And we are self-improvement in your pocket, health, wealth, and love every day from anywhere on the planet completely free. And we have an entire 24 layered business model underneath all of that. And it's all awesome. But that's how it was born. It was born from understanding that the root cause of all human suffering is ignorance and apathy. People either don't know any better or they don't care enough or some combination of both. And so I'm on a mission to cure that to the very best of my ability, not only in myself, but in the world.
Alan, that is a badassery at its finest. I mean, there's so much in that is incredibly respectable. Number one is the sheer compassion that you have for recognizing statistically the problem that we face on the globe. And so not just admiring that, but taking action to say, what can I do as one person to make a difference? Because you can. Secondly, is a meeting of the minds. You get with a person or people or the right team, and you can accelerate your goals even further. So you had that momentum, Kevin had that momentum, and you came together, and then was born, something even bigger than, I mean, is this bigger than what you had imagined? Is this exactly where you thought you'd be? Like, how do you feel about this?
First of all, thank you. I really appreciate that. And people ask me often, like, what are you most proud of? And so we are making a lot of money now, and I'm very, very grateful for that, because I remember in the early part of the journey, Kevin and I were in debt and bootstrapping, and I was landscaping on the side for extra cash. It was just nothing short of absolutely brutal. But now we're making good money and it's all awesome. And Emilia, my girlfriend, she always asks me great questions. What are you most proud of? What I'm most proud of is the way we make our money. We have a podcast production agency who helps self-improvement podcasts. We have 18 podcasts that we produce right now, and they're all in self-improvement, which is the solution, in my opinion, to these problems. And, I have my coaching business, and I coach people all over the world that are aligned, integrous people. And so I'm more proud of the way we make our money than anything else. But to sort of get back to what you were saying is this bigger than I had imagined? I told you I'd be direct and I'd be explicit. And one of my big fears is appearing arrogant. And I'm trying to get over that, because the truth is, no, it's not bigger than I thought it would be. I do struggle with, and I want to be transparent about this. I didn't realize this until my girlfriend helped me with it. Self-confidence has never really been a huge issue for me, and I think that will be apparent to anyone who's listening. And if that's unrelatable, I apologize. I just don't. I don't know. Things have always come fairly naturally to me. I've always achieved anything I ever set my mind to, genuinely, even when everyone told me I couldn't. Right, but self-worth was the issue, and so I think of it this way: self-belief is, I know I can build this mansion. I know I can do it. It give me enough time and enough virtue and enough effort and enough work, and I can do it. That I have 10 out of 10, honestly. I don't struggle with that. But once the mansion's built, I let people come in and host a frat party. That was my issue. My issue growing up was really not being discerning with who I associate with. And after 26, I woke up, luckily, and started to only associate with people who truly were aspirational and who believed in a brighter future and who were working toward it. And so, to answer your original question, no, it's not bigger than I thought it would be. It's actually much smaller than I think it will be. I think we're behind in many regards. I'm proud of us, but we're only barely scratching the surface. I mean, put it this way, we had more listens in yesterday than we did the entirety of the first year.
Wow.
And so it's accelerating the acceleration, and I'm really grateful. But we're projected, in my consciousness, what's truly possible, we're projected for 100 million by 2030, and that's on the low end. And so we're starting a software company, and so to be direct, I didn't realize this. Kevin helped me understand this. He said, Alan, the reason you appear so arrogant to other people is because what they are hoping, you are calculating. I'll tell this story briefly. We were in Florida and we were like 240 episodes in, and we were driving home from Southern Florida, and we were living in Florida at the time with one of my business mentors at the time up in Jacksonville, Florida. And we were driving home, and it was a long day. I mean, that's an understatement. And we're driving home, and it's late at night, and we're listening to nostalgic music. I think it was Stained or something. And the sun was setting, and it was beautiful. And I remember Kevin turning to me, and it was like this really beautiful nostalgic moment where he's like, man, with all the work we're doing, like, if this would really suck if this like didn't work out. And,
Oh
and we
man.
still laugh and we joke about this, because I turned to him, and I'll be candid, I'm not kidding. I said, Kevin, I've never considered that once. I've never even, I said, of course it will. Like, and I know that sounds unrelatable. Kevin's helped me understand, like, no one calculates that, right? So based on my calculations, we're actually behind. So I'm surprised it's taken so long, right? 850 episodes. It's been a journey. So no, this is not bigger than I thought it would be. This is far smaller than I know it will be. And I told you I'd be direct. So hopefully that lands.
Your candor, I love that. And here's the thing about it. It's you can't accomplish what you've accomplished and calculate without having a certain level of confidence. I mean, that takes confidence. And so if anything, I hope that anybody who is listening is inspired by that, because much of the time, I think I mentioned this to you, in a pre-conversation that we were having, is fear. People have fear. People have lack of confidence. There's someone said something, some event happened, and it triggers you, and it stops you, debilitates you, and keeps you from thinking big, dreaming big. Or you do get to a certain point of success and you say, okay, it can't get any better than this. Like, that's impossible. So there are a lot of conditioning, that occurs in some ways that have to be undone to get to the maximum potential that you're talking about. I don't know. I don't think that anybody is listening to a Born Unbreakable self-development podcast because they're just excited about complacency, excited about stagnation. I think they're here today listening because they want more. They are, and you should not be ashamed for wanting more, whether that is financially, spiritually, intellectually, uh, in all of the areas that you might want that. So I just want to acknowledge that, because we all have to consider our own confidence, our ego, and it plays into how we do things, hour to hour, minute to minute, every day. So, I appreciate you being so honest.
Thank you for that. That's always been challenging for me. Because I think that uh, when it's a big mirror for people who aren't confident, uh, and that's okay. It's okay. I have fears and I have struggles. I will tell you, I was afraid for sure to lose my friends. I was afraid
Mhm.
for sure to outgrow my family. And many of those things have come true. Um, and I was, in an interesting way, afraid of success because of all that. So fear of failure was not my issue.
Mhm.
I know many of your listeners struggle with fear of failure, but it wasn't until I figured out that my fear was success. It is not our darkness, but our light that most frightens us. That really powerful quote. And for me, that's definitely the case. And
Mhm.
that's why I wear this true north, is because, I mean, even on this episode, there's this fear that if I shine super bright,
Mhm.
that people will judge me and hate me. And the truth is some people will, and you might not like me, and I have to learn how to be okay with that. But that doesn't mean that I'm not here to serve and I'm not here to help you. And I know that I can. I do it every day, So
Yeah. So I want to talk about because you talked about alignment and, you making a conscientious decision to work with people that you want to work with, that you want to help. So I want to know who that is, because there's people who are listening right now that are looking for that mentorship. They're looking for that coaching. They're looking for the thing that's going to take them next level, to the next level of their life, of their business, of their relationships, all the kinds of things that you cover. And I do think it's important in that journey for people to choose somebody that there is alignment. That's how you accomplish things. So who is your ideal candidate for coaching, whether it's you personally or somebody within your team in your to come to your one of your programs?
So thank you for that. And I'll say this. So my girlfriend and I, more her than me, her idea, but I helped her co-create this. We have something called the C33 Evolve Score, and it tests you on 33 facets of your personality, and they all begin with C. So contemplation, consciousness, choices, um, commitment, courage, charisma, all these different facets of and there's 33 of them. They all begin with C, and hey, complacency is not one of them. But anyways, so uh, that an ideal candidate, in a way there is no ideal candidate, but I can give you what I believe to be the most ideal. I have one client, and I'll just shout him out and celebrate him. His name's Cam, 24 years old, super humble, so open to guidance, unreasonably hardworking, and the dude is just a good guy. He's a really good guy, and he's always wanted to be a good guy, and he always has been a good guy. He just didn't have the right guidance, and I'm teaching him what I wish I knew at 24. And I'll tell you what, like, I can't wave magic fairy dust and make him successful overnight. But I'll tell you what, if I had to put money on him being successful, I mean, he's got the C's, he's got the 33, he's got the evolve score. He evolves, he adapts, he grows. Such a compound effect. And so, an ideal client for me is someone who wants to do the maximization triad I told you about, someone who truly doesn't just say it, but really does want to maximize their potential, unique potential, really does want to contribute beyond themselves sincerely, not pretending, but actually does, and acts that way when no one's watching. That's the key. And then third is wants to improve the quality of their life so that they can do one and two even more. That's an ideal aligned client for me. My girlfriend and I, in our house, we have 3 words. They're the 3 main core values of our relationship, and we have a business built on that as well. We just started a podcast as well called the Conscious Couples Podcast. First episode was our love story, which was really cool. But anyways, so these 3 words are above the sort of opening to our kitchen, and it's optimize, align is in the center, and then erudite. And so optimize is something referred to in coding as an optimal stopping problem. So for example, how can you be as productive as possible? So, okay, there's something as grinding too hard, but there's also something as grinding not enough. So what's the optimal stopping of the right amount of grinding for your own unique level you're playing at, right? So that's optimize. Align is core aspirations, core values, core beliefs. And I owe that to my girlfriend. Best framework of all time, right? You go into a mall and you see the map and it says big red arrow. You are here. Perfect. Perfect. This is where I start. Okay. The Apple store is up the elevator and at the other side of the mall. Apple store is here. Most people wonder why their life isn't working out. It's like you don't know where you are because your self-awareness is too low, because we weren't taught anything on self-awareness. No one took a self-awareness course, which is so unfortunate.
Right.
And then on top of that, you don't know where you want to go. You don't even know the life you really want. And you're aiming too low, and you don't know how to get there. Even if you did know where you are and where you want to go, what if you don't know how to get there? And so it's called the GPS, and we do this for our relationship talks clients. We coach married couples, and it's called the GPS. And there's one for the intimate relationship and for each individual. But it really comes down to core aspirations, core values, core beliefs. Super simple. Core aspirations, and all of this is under the align category, by the way. Core aspirations are: who do you aspire to be? What do you aspire to achieve? What's your mission? What's your mission really? Right. So I'll give you one example. So Kevin and I's mission is to have the most successful holistic self-improvement podcast in terms of positive impact in history. We never really get there, but we're never really going to stop, right? So that's the mission. Now, bring that down to an annual goal. Okay, we want over 1 million listens this year. Okay, bring that to the 5-year goal. Okay, we want 20 million listens by the end of 5 years, right? So, and we've all extrapolated this out. We've got all the numbers. So that's a line. Core aspirations is the first one. Core values. Core values is how you show up in the present. So, what's a core value? Personal development for me is obviously a core value. That's why I read books constantly, right? I was on the phone with a client yesterday. They told me a book they recommended. I bought it right then. They're like, "Wow, you take action fast." It's like, I'm not going to wait. Like, let's do it.
Right now.
Yeah, right now. And so core values is about how you show up in the present. Are you respectful? Do you value personal development or just pretend to? Do you value fitness or just pretend to because you have the nice gym outfit, right? And then core beliefs. Core beliefs are the acorn. The acorn is like, if you've ever seen the movie Inception, it's the one idea that is you. For me, my acorn is maximizing my unique potential and helping others do the same. Every single thing I do and don't do is predicated on that acorn. And so core beliefs, core values, core aspirations, that's alignment. And that's your original question. The third one is erudite. Erudite is a word that means being obsessed with learning. It's knowledge. You just need to know. Emilia and I, when we first met 2 years ago, probably 2 years and a quarter now, I made this joke. I said, I don't want to know. I effing need to know. I'm kind of like a Sherlock Holmes. I just have to understand. Quick story about this. We were in Florida, me, my business partner, Emilia, and her business partner, Bianca. And we were at this event. WhatsApp went down. We were trying to talk to our team. We use WhatsApp. Yeah. Facebook was down. We were trying to post, couldn't post. And Instagram was down. Right. And it's like, oh my God, the internet's not working. Did they shut down our internet at this event? Did they not allow us? We're like checking the venue. We're seeing, how is this possible? Is it we just have bad signal? Oh, Facebook owns all three of those companies. Facebook owns all three of those companies. So of course they're all down. We thought, did they shut our phones off? Does that technology even exist? And that was when Kevin and Bianca got to realize, like, Emilia and Alan cannot not know. I have to know what happened.
Yeah.
Because that's where all the gold is. The gold is buried underneath figuring things out, right? There's a reason you go to the mechanic. The mechanic knows how to rebuild the engine even better than take it apart, rebuild it better. I don't know much about cars. I can't garden worth anything. I don't know how to cook. But when it comes to human beings, when it comes to achievement and achieving your dreams, when it comes to fulfillment, when it comes to fitness, when it comes to holistic self-improvement, I have to know. And that's erudite. I'm reading economics books, before bed that are the most boring books in the world. I have to know as much as possible. And so that's erudite. And so those are the three core values that Emilia and I live by every single day: optimize, align, and erudite. And core aspirations, core values, core beliefs. And that's really sort of the true North Star, so to speak, to answer your question.
It's brilliant. I love it. Well, and you're living it because you're looking at it every day, right? You're being reminded of what your values are. And I think that's, anybody listening can relate to having what those are for you. How does that show up? And going through that values exercise, I always, like to choose, like you have your word that you just talked about. I mean, I think there's so much power in those kind of exercises, choosing your word, sticking with your values, having values as a team, having values as a couple. So there's a lot of power in that. But I want to ask you a couple of questions that will help people to get to know you more. They have already learned so much, but why not a little bit further? And since we started the episode, and I use the word fulfillment, you said it. Let's come back to that for just a second. I know you mentioned the soul alignment. Can you just say a little bit more about what fulfillment looks like for you, especially when you're coaching someone and they're looking for that? Like, what is fulfillment that you experience and want to see of those clients that you are working with every day?
So I'll start it with fulfillment is my favorite thing to talk about. Definitely love to talk about business and productivity and scale and all that stuff. But I like to talk about fulfillment most because I think it is what's most important. If there's one thing this world needs more, it's more fulfilled human beings. And we weren't taught how to become fulfilled. And so there's that story of John Lennon had a teacher give an assignment of what do you want to be when you get older? And when he was a little kid, and he said happy. And the teacher said, you didn't understand the assignment. And he said, you don't understand life. And while I like that story, and we've all probably heard it, it's very, I would say it's not deep enough. Happiness, right? It's such a, no one really knows what that even means. Because, okay, when you eat a donut, it feels good. Does that mean you're happy? So to me, there's something that I call the fulfillment framework, and it's called a pyramid of fulfillment, and it's what I'm writing my book on. And there's 5 levels to it. Next level university. It's about how do you get to the pinnacle, and then when you get to the pinnacle, don't forget about the foundation because you're in trouble if you do. But the bottom is physical needs. The next layer is physical, mental, and emotional needs. The next layer is mostly emotional needs. And then eventually you get to the top 2 layers, which is maximizing your potential and your greatest level of contribution. And it's sort of like a Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but I think it's a better 21st century, more practical, applicable version. And I'm biased, so take that with a grain of salt. but fulfillment is a formula.
Yeah.
And I think that what we think happiness is actually 3 separate things. The first one is joy. Being in the moment and enjoying what you do. So I'm enjoying this conversation with you. So I'm in joy and I'm in the moment, the present moment. Mm-hmm. But you can enjoy something and not be fulfilled, right? So the second thing is pleasure. Pleasure is sort of if then. If this podcast goes well, then I'll be happy and get a dopamine hit. Like, yeah, I did a good job. Fulfillment, though. Fulfillment is different. Fulfillment can last. So even if this podcast, I did terrible, right? And after it, I feel bad, I can still be fulfilled as a person because I'm going to learn and grow. So fulfillment comes from the maximization triad, which is growing, contributing, and your quality of life. And those can be something you incrementally level up by becoming a better human being and by serving the world at a greater level and by getting in more of alignment. And so in one sentence, fulfillment is the soul's recognition of alignment with its highest potential, its highest level of contribution, and its highest quality of life. In practice, though, I mean, I have a pyramid with, I think there's 19 categories. And so I have this assessment that I do with my clients where I have them rate themselves from 0 to 10 in each of the 19 categories in this pyramid of fulfillment. And then, we identify the bottleneck. It's like, okay, if you're only sleeping 2 hours a night, no matter how much money you have, you're going to feel like the sky is falling. Yeah. Right. So you can't be fulfilled and sleep 2 hours a night. That's not a thing. And so one more little quick story. I'm in my early 20s, and I will say this. I grew up with some serious challenges and traumas, and I think that in my young life, I was very tenacious. So take this with a grain of salt. My mom said, "Why do you value intelligence so much? Like, what's the big deal? Like, Alan, why do you care about it?" I said, "Mom, intelligence is so critical because that's how you figure things out, and that's how you live a great life." And I said, "Mom, I'm trying to figure out," and I'll preface this first to provide context. I grew up in an environment where people said to me, my stepdad left at 14. We went from customizing a $250,000 yacht to I get free lunch at school now because we have no income. So it was, father passing away, challenges, trauma. I had some really good things in my childhood too. I want to be clear about that, but it was definitely a roller coaster. And I remember people telling me, "Alan, these are the best years of your life." When I was in high school, these are the best years of your life. I remember going, "Oh my God, I hope not." Right? I remember being like, there's no way. There's no way these are the best years of my life. No chance, right? And of course, I'm planning for the future. Bright future. Steve Jobs is my hero. Fortune 50 CEO. Life is about choices. My future's always been bright. I've always worked hard for a bright future. And I remember thinking to myself, like, there's no way high school the best years of my life, which, by the way, for anyone who's younger listening, I'm 33. No, Hell no. Oh my God. High school was brutal, right? Yeah, it had its good fun. What they're really saying is, I have too many responsibilities. I don't like responsibility. I haven't gotten better. And I wish I was back in high school when the
Right.
glory days were fun, right? And it's
Exactly.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, but they don't say that. They just say these are the best years of your life. So I looked around and I got scared. And I'm going to be transparent, okay? I grew up in a small town and it was small minded. And it used to be hard for me to say that, but it's just the God honest truth. And I remember looking around and I saw so many unfulfilled human beings. And I used to be shy about this, but I'm just going to say it. I saw unfulfilled marriages with unfulfilled people in unfulfilling careers. And I'm telling you, I saw what that did. I saw what that did, alcohol, drugs, blah, blah, blah. I saw what unfulfillment does. And I knew, I told my mom in my early 20s, I said, you want to know why intelligence matters? I said, Mom, I'm trying to figure out the formula. I'm a big math guy, engineer. I'm trying to figure out the formula to not end up old and miserable like everybody else. And I know that sounds hardcore, and it is. That's what I've been doing my whole life. That's why I'm writing a book on fulfillment, because my whole life was, I know there's a formula. I know there's a way to not end up miserable. Everyone around me seemed so unhappy, especially in marriages.
Oof.
And we wonder why the divorce rate is so high, right? I'm in the most fulfilled relationship. We literally 2 years, coming up on almost 3. So we're coming up on 2.5, really. And we've never fought once. I know this sounds insane. I'm telling you, I would not have believed it either. We've had challenging moments,
Yes.
but we've never fought. My girlfriend told me, she said, Alan, people who fight, they think there's a winner and a loser, but when you fight, everyone loses. We're never going to fight. And I remember thinking to myself, like, we're never going to fight. Like, I want to be with you forever. How's that even
Right? You're like,
possible? What I
what?
grew up in, right? Yeah. What I grew up in, there was a fight or two, right?
Lot.
There's a couple raising of voices and maybe a few other things, right? So, but it's true. We've never fought. We've never raised our voice. We've never stormed out. Like, we just have this beautiful, and I give most of the credit to her because she's so well emotionally regulated. She's so well developed and all that. But here's my point. To answer your original question, fulfillment's a formula. It's a formula. There are variables. And yes, we're all different. We all have different cultures and different parents and different backgrounds and different countries and different, economic status. But fulfillment is a formula. And you can be fulfilled. You just have to optimize for it. And you have to be in alignment with your calling. And the only way to know if you're in alignment with your calling is, am I fulfilled? From 0 to 10, how fulfilled are you? If your answer is 10, holy crap, you're in alignment.
Wow.
Keep doing what you're doing. If the answer is not 10, which, by the way, it's probably not, it's 8. Okay, what's the delta? What's going to get you closer to 10? Fulfillment and regret are my guardrails. When I have a regret, that is the soul's recognition of misalignment. It's saying, hey, Alan, maybe, just maybe, that was outside of alignment with your core values or your core aspirations, right? You aspire to be fit this summer. You skip the gym. You feel guilt and shame and remorse. Okay, instead of wishing all that pain away, you're supposed to contemplate, you know what? How can I make sure I go tomorrow? Your relationship with regret can guide you. You just have to, don't live in it. Don't dwell in it. Don't dig a hole deeper.
Yeah.
Use it as your guide. When you're fulfilled, double down. Why am I fulfilled? Okay, I'm going to do more of that. Excellent. Okay, find the sweet spot. When you regret something, everyone right now, think of a decision they made in high school. Okay, I've got one. I was 16 years old. Lost my virginity. Dumbest decision ever. Barely even knew this girl. Okay, I would never do that again. Worst idea ever. It's okay. I was 16. I was a dumb teenager. Okay, why would I never do that again? I'm now more aware of the long-term consequences of what could have gone wrong.
Yeah.
Fortunately, nothing went wrong. I'm really grateful. But I would never do that again. Why? Because I'm now more aware. I'm now more responsible. I'm now more hyper-conscious. I'm now more erudite. I'm now more aligned. So don't wish your whole past away. Very last thing I'll say about fulfillment is this. I'm 33. I reread the book of the first 32 years, and then I reinvested all the lessons into the 33rd year. That's what I'm doing right now. My girlfriend asked me when I turned 33, she always has these great questions. Best coach in the world. She said, what are you going to do differently in your 33rd year? And I said, I'm never going outside of alignment again. I said, persons, places, things, and ideas that are outside of alignment, the answer is no. I podcast, I speak, I train, I coach, and I consult. I don't do anything else. You need me to fix your car? The answer is no. You need me to garden? The answer is no. You want me to go to a backyard barbecue on a Sunday? The answer is no. Don't even ask, right? I'm here to maximize my potential and to help others do the same. And if it's not in that lane, don't even ask. I'm about to say no to a bachelor party I just got invited to. I said no recently to someone who wanted me to be his groomsman, respectfully. I might not even go to the wedding, never mind the bachelor party. I'm no longer going outside of alignment with my mission. I realize in hindsight that was a mistake, and I'm glad I woke up at age 26.
If there's one part of the podcast that you replay, listen to the fulfillment section. I mean, that was like money, so money, so many moments. I know I'm gonna replay back a lot of what you said. So I have a lighter question because I know that you've done a lot in life, and you're only 33. It's still young. What's something that's on your bucket list?
Ooh, seeing the pyramids.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah, I want to see the pyramids. Yeah, I think
I love it.
there's something about and the pyramid of fulfillment. There's so many reasons underneath it. All of our frameworks are pyramids. Even the business Emilia and I started, it's called the We. It's a pyramid, and there's two little pyramids within it, and the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And there's a true north at the top, our logo, and there's the feminine pyramid and the masculine pyramid. And so, we each have our own mission. But then when we met each other, the mission got even bigger.
Yeah,
And so now we align to that. And so, yeah, the pyramids, I got to see the pyramids,
brilliant.
I've
Oh,
always
that's
been so
good.
drawn to them. Yeah. And
Yeah,
hopefully at night with the stars too.
it has to. You have to.
Got
You
to do
have
it.
to. Self-limiting beliefs. Have you had one that you've had to overcome?
Big time. I used to believe in myself so much that I believed I could achieve my dreams no matter who I was around. And time always tells the truth. There is now looking back, there is no chance I could have stayed in those old rooms with those people and still, achieved my dreams. There's no way. And that was my limiting belief, is that I believed in myself so much that I believed I could bring everyone with me. And not only that, but I believed they'd come with me.
Wow.
And Kevin did. Kevin and I went to the same school, middle school, high school. Kevin did come with me, but that's not real. That's not real. They have their own consciousness and their own path. And my limiting belief was believing that everyone wanted to aspire to their greatest potential. And that is not true, unfortunately.
Your superpower. What would you say is your superpower?
I love it. I can unlock people's potential like I've never seen before. The only person who I know who I believe can do it at the same level is Emilia, my girlfriend. I'll give an example rather than just saying it. So, my assistant Amy's sweetest person in the world, awesome, and she was struggling with fitness for such a long time. And she came to me and she said, "Alan, the last time I was in great shape and consistent in the gym was when you were fitness coaching me, because I started off as a fitness coach, then I was a mindset coach, peak performance coach, business coach, and it's evolved a lot." And I said, "Okay, hire me. Let's do it." Right? We check in every week anyway. We might as well do the fitness thing. She has been to the gym every day from the moment she hired me. What made the difference? And people on my team even said, like, "What are you doing? Like, how are you doing that?" Because she has this spreadsheet. She tracks her weight every day and her calories every day. And she's doing a progression too. So all her lifts are tracked in this spreadsheet. And she went from not going at all to that. And I said, I know how to influence Amy. I know how to unlock Amy's potential more than Amy does. And Amy knows that. And that's why she hired me. But my superpower is unlocking human potential and creating systems that can do that. And that's actually why we're creating software. So picture like Adobe Creative Cloud for art, digital artwork and digital stuff, Premiere and Photoshop and all that. Picture that, but for optimizing individuals, teams, and businesses. So we're going to be the Adobe of that.
I believe
and I'm excited.
That's freaking awesome. Last piece of advice, Alan. What would you say?
I'll tell a quick story. I keep saying that. None of your stories are quick, Alan. Hypothetical story. All right. And this did almost happen to me. So that's probably why I tell it. No, this is a different scenario, but imagine a mother with a 2-year-old son in the sandbox in the park. Mother runs into an old friend. The 2-year-old learned how to crawl recently, is very adventurous. Mother's not paying attention, friend's not paying attention. Somehow the gate was open. 2-year-old goes into the street, gets hit by a car. Hypothetical, didn't happen. Okay, didn't happen. I don't want to trigger anyone. Now, we can argue all day in this hypothetical of like whose fault it was. Okay, the mother should have been paying more attention. True. The friend probably should have noticed. True. The person driving the car should have been paying more attention. Definitely true. But there's one thing that no one would ever say, and that's that it was the 2-year-old's fault. Now, here's why. The 2-year-old was not aware that cars were dangerous. And so if you've learned anything in this episode, I hope it's this. You have higher awareness now. There's no version of listening to this episode and not having at least something shaken loose. With awareness comes responsibility. You know what bothers me more than someone, when I was 16 and made a dumb choice, it was low awareness. What bothers me is when people have the awareness and do nothing about it. If you have higher awareness now after listening to this episode, my last piece of advice is that it is your responsibility to do something about it. Someone asked me one time, what does it mean to be next level? I only ever have one answer. Only ever. Who are you and what are you doing when no one's watching? I care more about my own workout in the gym tonight, swear to God, than I do on this episode. Who are you and what are you doing when no one's watching? And if you do it then, eventually everyone will be watching.
Incredible. So now everybody is asking, where can they find you? Where can they follow you? Because this was like an appetizer. This was a very fortunate hour of a glimpse of what now people are saying. I want to go to dinner. I want to go to the feast. I want more. So where can they get more of Alan Lazaros?
I appreciate that. That's a good analogy. I'm going to use that. No. So if you want more of anything that you enjoyed here, Next Level University is the place. Yeah. So we're on every podcast platform. We are on YouTube. We also started a podcast called The Conscious Couples Podcast. If you're having challenges in your intimate relationship, which if you're in an intimate relationship, you are probably having challenges. At least it could be better. Yeah. The Next Level University podcast, in the show notes of every single episode, we have 850 of them on YouTube and every podcast platform. My information is in there. My Instagram's in there. My email's in there. My LinkedIn, I think, is in there. Between my assistant and I, we get back to everyone still. And so I want to keep that up to the best of my ability. So please reach out, and I hope you enjoy the show.
I'm so grateful. Alan, this has been incredible. Thank you so much for your time. This has been one of the most enlightening parts of, I was going to say day, but literally week, month. So I very much value energy, intelligence, and meaningful conversations. And this is certainly all three cylinders. So I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This was a wonderful interview, and you have a wonderful platform. And definitely keep going, because I see a lot of success with this show for sure. And I do not always say that.
When you said you were direct and honest, I didn't doubt that for a second. Okay, so that means a lot to me. Thank you, Alan.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Holy cow. That was one of the richest episodes that I've done. Alan Lazaros is brilliant. His authenticity, his honesty, his intellect, his experience. Are you kidding me right now? Stop being ridiculous. 33 years old and has accomplished what sounds like double the lifetime worth of things. And I'm not talking about just the accolades as far as having the financial benefits, the business growth, the multiple businesses, the relationships. I'm talking about the relentless pursuit of excellence and learning. I was in awe just listening to him, and that is the fortune of being here, because it's like me being in school right alongside with you. The guests that come on the show truly have inspiring stories and can teach us so much. I truly believe that there is something that you walked away with, a gift today. So here's what I'm going to leave you with, because I could sit here for another hour and go on and on about reflecting on this episode. Fulfillment. That was a thematic theme. I knew it from the beginning. I felt this energy around it. I didn't know it was going to be as big as I thought it was when he talked about everything in that segment where we defined it and everything. I want you to ask yourself, what is fulfillment to you? What does sustaining, lasting fulfillment look like to you? And on a scale of 1 to 10, your brutally honest answer. How fulfilled are you? What is that delta? What would it look like if you closed the gap and lived in your fullest level of fulfillment? And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that it's probably not money, and it's probably not material. If there's anything that you've learned from listening to even 1 or 2 episodes, let alone if you've been here for the journey, it is that fulfillment comes from within. But I want you to think about what that means to you today. Carry that with you. Talk about it with a friend or a group, whatever you need to do. This has been amazing. I am just living in full gratitude every time I do an episode of this show. And this is exactly why I do what I do, is to learn with you, to create this community where we recognize how unbreakable we truly are. And thank you for being here. Subscribe if you haven't already. Share this episode if you think that somebody else can get something from it, because that is what we do. We pay it forward. So please share. Engage with me. If there's feedback that you have, if there's suggestions that you have, you know how to reach me, Born Unbreakable. You can go there, or des@bornunbreakable.com. I appreciate you. Remember, you are your only limit, so take action today. Tune in again next time for another inspiring episode of the Born Unbreakable podcast.